So, gentlemen, moving on, the Coral Regency final. I think we should really start with Mr. Boyle. Tell us why Boyle Bullet is going to win the final.
For her to win the final, Floyd, my opinion is that she's probably going to have to lead up. I think she's fully capable of leading up. We deliberately tried to freshen her up before the comp. She won the Kent St Ledger, and that night, she marked for everything at her, and she was firing. So in this game, you can't keep going to the well too often. So we had to bring her back down before we could bring her back up again. So we give her two 500-meter sweeteners, and she went tremendously well. And from experience of this bit, she seems to get better every look she gets at a track. In the first round, that was her first look over in them 695 boxes, and she duly missed her break, but she ran ever so well to win the heat. I was expecting an improved trapping performance in the semi-final. Having that look at those boxes and a further look at the track, I was fully expecting her to go very well. Pleasantly surprised by the massive drift on her. I couldn't really understand it, but she did smash out the cans, which I thought was in her locker, and she put up a hell of a performance in what was a competitive heat, and she did ever so well to win. She did come off that race quite tired. She puts everything into her races. She's that type of bitch. She's got 11 wins from 14. She puts it all in. She's very, very classy. Seems have all round ability. I mean, we forget, she's got a 28-30 round Shelbourne as a pup. She's even won from trap 6 over in Ireland. So she got a massive graduation in Ireland with Gary Dempsey, and that was all really preparing her for six bends over here. Her first comp over here was straight into the golden jacket, where we backed her at massive prices from 50 to 133 all the way down, and we kind of knew what we had up our sleeve, and the cat got out of the bag in that golden jacket, and she got beaten in the final where she got knocked over, which was sad to say, but we're seeing what she's capable of now, and she's in track one. I'm hoping for another good break again. I'm hoping that she holds the inside and pushes George out at the first bend, and she's in front off the first and second bend, then I think it will take a Herculean performance to get her. If she turns behind George, would I be throwing my ticket up? I probably wouldn't tear it up. But at the same time, she's got it to do. But this is a stiffer 695 than maybe at Yarmouth, although he wasn't stopping there. But yeah, all in all, I'm expecting her, in order for her to win the race, I'm expecting her to lead, really. That's where her chances lie. And I'll be looking in the wing mirrors to see where the massive runner in IM6, the Lydia is, because she comes home like an express train. So I'm hoping that she won't be too close.
So Mitch, you happy with the draw?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to have been drawn inside Billy's dog, but we were drawn in 4 at Yarmouth, and Billy was on the inside with Beaushine, and it's incredible. Blue Tick George and Boyle Bullet are very similar dogs in their type of running style, that especially over this distance, they look to bang out and lead and play catch me if you can. I mean, George, after Yarmouth, we made the decision that we'd give him a little break to freshen him up. A lot of people were quite surprised to see us taking him to Toast at over 500 metres, but at the time we just kind of thought we need something just to get him going again before Hove. And we didn't really want to try and bottom him out and try and stick him over 712. So we put him over 500. He ran really well, to be fair. Finished second in the final of that exceptional cup. And it's still no idea how we finished second in that, but he ran really well. We've came to Hove. He won the first heat. Mad Mash Bullet was right on his tail the whole way, and he stayed it nicely. We all seen what happened last week. He like Billy just described with the I Am Zorel, the Lydia, he led her merry dance, and then she's picked him up at the line, and fair play that to even lead a dog like I Am Zorel, but we know how good she's she's going to be finishing better than anything in this. How do we win it? I think George has got to lead. He's got to bang out. He can bang from 2. He doesn't need to be on the rail. We've seen him. He can 2, 3, 4. I wouldn't have minded really. He bangs out. He's got to lead Beaushine up the rail. He's got to cross over, take Beaushine's ground, and then try and quick and clear from them, but that's easier said than done because Beauchine's capable of a similar break to George, but it's a fascinating contest, you know. There's other dogs we haven't discussed. There's Cold as Ice. I look at Cold as Ice and I'm thinking, could Cold as Ice be the goalkeeper for us and Boyle Bullet? Cold as Ice has got a nice bit of early. Will Cold as Ice hold I Am's Royale to the turn and give us that bit of freedom off the front? Who knows? But it's Billy and I spoke straight after the semi-final about how George was. George came out of the semi-final fine. The next day was bouncing. I know that Billy's dog, obviously, I think she puts a bit more in and probably felt it the next day. But as we've seen at Yarmouth, there's very little between George and Billy's dog. So it could go either way. It's who leads up the rail. You know, I just hope that we can break better than Billy's dog, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I wanted to mention, well, I mentioned them all really, but I mean, Cold as Ice, Derby semi-finalist, track record holder in his own right. Jimmy's done a phenomenal job with him, hasn't he? I mean, he's, you know, when you think that Ice on Fire would have been the dog that everybody would have been thinking about, and instead we've ended up with his half brother, I think, isn't he? Cold as Ice. From a personal point of view, it's nice to see Skillful Daisy because Anne Moore and George Ripley were involved. I think one of my first ever visits to a greyhound track, I was about 12 or 13. Well, in fact, it was immediately after that. They had dogs at Wimbledon, and they owned, or George owned, Leading Pride that won the TV trophy for George Curtis. I think it's about 1973, something like that. So they're still in greyhounds after all this time. And in fact, Anne, I remember from being a teenager and having to take pictures of things of David Essex and Mark Bolan and whatever. So I mean, I've known Anne quite a long time. Ragtime Arthur, again, would seem to have a little bit to do, but then who wouldn't in this kind of level of company? I presume no matter who leads, no matter which of the five should they kind of get clear, everybody is going to be looking for I Am's Royale, are they not?
Yeah. Well,
Really?
last week, when in the first heat when we beat I Am's Royale, we managed to get enough rope off the front. But last week, if anybody watches it back, coming off the final turn, she picks up 6 lengths up the straight. You know, we're gonna have to get a good lead on her, whether it's Billy's dog or whether it's my dog. But she's some bitch, isn't she?
I was going to say, Billy, what's it like in the kennel? I mean, you've got two of the best stayers in training. I mean, let's face it. If we were looking at the best 6 stayers in training, there's at least 3 or 4 of them in this final. You've got 2 of them in the same kennel. What's that like between connections?
Oh, we have a bit of friendly banter with the connections of Lydia. We often see them on a Sunday. I know Lorraine's down there nearly every Sunday. I get down there now and again. Got to meet Mitch and Nigel, the cracking lads, great syndicate. So it is a bit of friendly banter. But let's put it out there. Mark Wallace is a tremendous trainer of a stayer, and I don't know whether it's because we buy that type of dog and he gets training, but his record in the staying division is second to none. And again this year he's got some cracking stayers on his hands. So yeah, but it is friendly. Look, we want to win. They want to win. But you know, at the end of the day, whatever dog wins, we'll shake that person's hand afterwards and have a bit of fun. And that's how it's always been. And she's just an absolute aeroplane, the bitch. You know, I've got no doubt on Sunday after that race, she was probably jumping up and down wanting some food. So I'm pretty sure she come out of it very, very well. And she's got a hell of a chance. She can mix it with the best over any trip. I think if you tried her over, I think she did a silly 4-bend trial on Ireland, didn't she, at Shelbourne, like a 28-12 or something ridiculous like. So she's an absolute aeroplane. That semi-final she was in, there was a few kind of dogs in there with a little bit less more early, so there was always a chance that she was going to come round in a pitch, and she duly did. And once she did, it was race on. This final for me has got a slightly different makeup for me, a slightly different look about it. Cold as Ice dog's an absolute weapon, you know. Derby semi-finals, that 4-bend pace, that mixture of middle pace as well, and you know, she's going to do well to come round as handy as she did. But at the same time, does she have to be as handy as she did? She won that semi-final comfortably enough in the fastest time. So, you know, she's certainly a massive runner. And yeah, like I said, it's good fun. There's no animosity between any. It's good fun, and we wish everyone the very, very best, whether they're in Mark's kennel or not.
Just before moving on from that, of course, Billy's Bullet was Regency winner, wasn't he? And Mark, I think, must be a unique record to have won the Regency. Not to have the fact that he's won the Regency twice, there aren't, or at least twice that I can think of, but surely no trainer has ever won Category 1 race with two separate greyhounds who have returned from broken hocks to win it.
Yeah, it's a good point. I never thought of that. Yeah, I know he's won it at Blonde Fletch, Billy's Bullet, and I Am's a Breeze. There was so that's I mean, he is second to none. The kennel, he's got some great staff down there, and every dog that does get injured, we do our best by them, and so does the kennel, and they give them the full attention, give them every chance. So that would be some stat and some feat if it did happen. Yeah.
Gentlemen, move on. Carl Sussex Cup final. Who's been watching it closely? Who's going to pick me the winner?
Do you want to go, Dave?
Don't all right.
I was quite impressed with Troy Firebird last week, and I would say Troy Firebird's my selection. I mean, I think the early pace shown to the turn, you know, once you lead and that, I mean, it's totally different once you get into these finals. But led up last week and won what 9 3/4 lengths. Like, if you're a betting person and you watch that race back, you would think that was an absolutely fantastic run. And if David Mullins can bring that dog back in the same form this week, that's where my money would certainly be. I don't know about you, Billy. Where would you go?
I think Droopy's Edition is an absolute machine of a dog. Like, what a cracking dog he's been for connections. 29.59 in the first round. He cracked out in the semi-final, and I was impressed by the early paces of Antigua Storm. But this is Droopy's Edition. He knows how to buckle down, and he buckled down and got back in front, and he was impressive enough. At a price, I probably think the one dog has got a nice draw. Should he break? My only concern would be I'm not sure if he's trappy enough to break. If he does break, I think he's got the early pace to lead round, then he should come on for last week's one. And I think, he'd be about 10, 12 to 1 chance. I just felt a little bit last week, Troy Firebird was so impressive, but, the inside does got bogged down a little bit. It was difficult going, and they did come together ever so slightly, and he was ever so professional out wide. He's probably the best dog drawn on the card. In hindsight, we also had a few quid on, but yeah, I agree. He's definitely a runner should he break on terms. But it's another good final.
Yeah, Mark, again, well represented. I mean, we kind of picked these dogs out when the Derby was on, saying, these were the dogs that we're going to appreciate events like the Sussex Cup, and then presumably some of them at least heading then towards Romford. So I'm very, very, very powerful. He's not going to let Patrick just sneak away with his Trainers' Championship, is he?
No, I think your Mark's definitely a winner. Whether he'll tell you he just wants to win and wants to win everything, no matter if it's an A9 or if it's a competition. He's got 3 good dogs in that final there. Drumco, Brent, Ivy, Sky High, and obviously the dog I mentioned, Antigua Storm. He'd be busting a gut to win out of any one of those. And for me, I think that 515, I honestly think it's the best trip in the country, and I think it's a real crying shame it's not used more often. Seeing dogs in full flight over that trip, their live is a joy to behold. And we had the pleasure of seeing our Bruises Bullet run there over that trip, and it is a sight to behold. I think it's a wonderful track, wonderful distance, and I'd just love to see it used a bit more.
Yeah, I remember when they introduced the other distance, the 490 originally, and then of course the 500. And I spoke to Ian Smythe at the time and said, "Please promise me you're not going to lose the 515s." And he said, "No, it won't be our regular, but we will use it for the prestige events." And thank goodness, that's happened, because I agree with you. I think it is probably the best, the ultimate test. And and always has been. It always, as long back as I can remember, when we had many other tracks around there, you'd still say if you can run Ho 515, you had some machine. Which leads us talking to the 500 meters and the puppy final. Have you had a chance to look at it?
I have briefly, yeah. I did. I was there for all the heats, and the standout obviously is Dave Mullins' pup. He looks a hell of a pup, doesn't he? Seems to have it all. All tracks seem to come alike for him. He's just got a blend of a great blend of early, middle, and he stays well enough. 29:38 there last week was probably more of a 29 dead kind of run. It was absolutely superb, and he's the one to beat, and he's probably the one to take out the race. I'm sure they won't just give it to him though, and he'd be at prohibitive odds, so there'll be something in there maybe lurking as a danger. But for me, he does just look like a class apart.
Mitch, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think Brookside Ritchie got the draw as well. Obviously we know a lot about Trump's Benefit. The guys linked to Trump's Benefit are very bullish on this dog's future. I think he's an absolute star in the making. There's one slight, downside. Perhaps lacks that touch of early that the Brookside Ritchie will get up the rail. We'll probably have to chase it down. Trump's Benefit and Brookside Ritchie, and that's without talking about the other dogs in the race. But I mean, those two dogs are, probably the best pups in the country at the moment. But I'd have to go with the one dog, the draw and the performance last week. Like Billy touched on, 29:28 was phenomenal, and anything close to that, you've got to be. I wouldn't imagine it'd be a very big price either,
No, the only thing I would say, anybody that didn't see Trump's Benefits win, and again ran against Strawbeck Dandy, who, his Perry Bar dog didn't know the track, has done really well. But I don't know how many lengths Trump's Benefit gave away in running, but it was an incredible amount of racing that he did to get up and win it. And whatever happens, the connections will be looking forward with him, won't they?
Well, for a young pup, that Trump's Benefit for middle pace is absolutely something else, an absolute aeroplane. That's why I touched on maybe the one, Achilles heel is the early pace. But when that dog breaks, or when it gets off the front in the middle, it'll break the rest of the field. Phenomenal middle pace.
Yeah, I mean, to be stopped in his tracks at the time of that race, he was stopped at that 3/4. To then re-rally and he come home like an absolute train. It was like, in a way, watching Calico Ranger, which I know the kennel had as well, on the running again. He just found another leg and managed to get up. So he's a pup with enormous ability. I remember seeing the breeder Derby final night, and he said to me it was the fastest pup he's ever put a lead on. So that's a statement. And we've seen snippets of this dog's ability. Once it clicks with him, like, he could be the serious deal with this dog. So it's a great final, and you got a mixture of early pace there and a dog with all round pace. So should they both get a clear run, it could be very exciting.
Okay, and I take it you're going to get us the expenses with Baby Bullet, are you, in the British final?
I think she's got a good chance, Floyd. She's not your typical tight railer. She seems to be one of these bitches that is a little bit in between trips and a little bit in between draws. While she doesn't want to really be, she wants to be in trap 3 really, but how do you get a dog in trap 3? You see them rails, they get 1. You see the middle are out in 5. You're between a rock and a hard place. But that's another argument for another day. She's found herself in track 1. I think she got relatively straight. She might edge into the 2 box. She didn't have a look around the track last week, and we kind of threw her in at the deep end, and she tracked well. And if she just drove that first bend a bit better, she would have won. She did kind of run straight into the 5 bitch, which was Droopy's Coffee, and probably cost that the race. She re-rallied and stayed on quite well. Wasn't beaten far. If she traps again how she did there last week, I would expect her to come on for that look round there, and she just holds a tighter line into the bend. If she's in front of the second, I think she'll win. So yeah, certainly not without chances, that's for sure.
That's brilliant. I mean, just to kind of conclude, I think we can agree it's going to be one of the great nights of the year. So soon after the Derby, we've got the Derby winner, of course, on show in the Buccos Do Me Invitation. Gentlemen, I imagine that you're not going to sleep tonight.
No, I'm buzzing, to be honest. And anyone that's got nothing on tomorrow, get yourself down to Hove. It's just going to be a cracking night's racing. It's not every day of the week you get to see dogs of these ability running on the same night. So yeah, get yourselves down there. Let's hope they all come off fit, safe, and well, and the best dog wins. And we'd be happy if that's the case.
I take it, Mitch, for you to get there, you'd need to be leaving just about now, wouldn't you?
I've got a family holiday, so I can't get down this time. But I'm absolutely devastated. I've done Romford in a day to see George in the puppy final. Obviously, I went to Yarmouth, seeing Billy there. That was far enough, but with this trip away, I just can't get down. But I'm absolutely devastated. I think Billy's touched on that. You've got a Derby winner there. You've got 2 young pups that could just put themselves right in the picture for the Derby next year. You've got the stayers. You've got the reigning Greyhound of the Year in Arms Royale. You've got an unbelievable card to go out there. If that doesn't whet the appetite, especially after the Derby, I don't know what will.
Hopefully we're speaking next week.
Hope so.
Thanks, guys.